This is Inside Indiana Business Radio for the morning of Wednesday, August 16th, 2023. I'm Kate Sharon. The Indianapolis Colts begin their final days of training camp today with the first of two joint practices with the Chicago Bears at Grand Park Sports Campus in Westfield. The Colts are one of only 8 NFL teams to conduct training camp off-site, and a big reason for that is fan engagement, which is highlighted by the fact that both joint practice days are sold out. Westfield Mayor Andy Cook says hosting the Colts camp since 2018 has improved the identity both of the city and Grand Park in a way that couldn't be done otherwise.
What exactly does that do for us? Well, I can document several cases where residents and business people, their very first introduction to Grand Park was visiting or hearing about the Colts.
Cook said the media attention is worth millions of dollars of exposure each year. He said the camp is largely an Indiana crowd by design, which means area hotels don't see much of a boost as local restaurants do. But the purpose is to bring a Colts experience to families throughout the state. The training camp itself is not a moneymaker for Grand Park. A report presented to the Westfield Redevelopment Commission in December showed last year's camp brought in nearly $164,000 in revenue, but had over $716,000 in expenses. About $256,000 of that was reimbursable. But Cook said the partnership with the team is just one aspect of Grand Park and has come with its own benefits. He noted the Colts have rebuilt and maintained 2 football fields at their own expense. He said, quote, "So there's a lot of give and take. Union employees at the Terrace Care Center nursing home in LaPorte have voted to reject a proposed contract from Indianapolis-based Brickyard Health and authorized a strike." The Teamsters Local 135 said on social media this week the dispute primarily revolves around concerns over health insurance for employees. Employees including certified nurse aides, certified medication technicians, and specialist central supply workers organized with the union last year amid complaints over the company's health care plan due to its purported low quality and high cost. The licenses of a Southern Indiana funeral home and its director have been revoked following an investigation that found 31 decomposing bodies and 17 cremated remains being stored at the facility. An administrative complaint was filed earlier this year with the State Board of Funeral and Cemetery Service. The Langford Funeral Home and Family Center in Jeffersonville and its owner, Randy Langford, were charged with professional incompetence, failure to dispose of the 31 bodies in a timely manner, storing cremains at the facility beyond the legally permitted period, and other charges, Rokita's office said. From the number one source for Indiana business news, this is Inside Indiana Business Radio.
For 25 years, we've had the honor of telling the story of Indiana business. More than 1,300 shows, 8,000 interviews. We've traveled from Valparaiso to Versailles, Fort Wayne to Fort Branch, and everywhere in between. And we are just getting started. Our team is passionate about Indiana business because your story is worth telling. Join us every week as we travel the state to bring you Indiana's story. Inside Indiana Business, 25 years and counting.
Indiana State's Economic Development Agency has a new leader at the helm. IIB's Alex Brown has more.
Governor Eric Holcomb on Tuesday announced David Rosenberg as the next CEO of the Indiana Economic Development Corporation, promoting the state agency's chief operating officer to the top job. As the new Indiana Secretary of Commerce, Rosenberg will succeed Brad Chambers, who stepped down from the post after his 2-year contract expired August 6th. Chambers has said he is considering running for governor. Rosenberg will oversee the quasi-government entity that received an additional $1.2 billion in the most recent state budget to aggressively pursue economic development projects. Prior to joining the IEDC, Rosenberg was vice president of operations for Indianapolis-based lobbying and consulting firm Market Street Group. He also served as operations officer for Indianapolis Public Schools. The IEDC has landed big deals through hefty incentives over the years, including up to $186 million for automaker Stellantis and renewable battery company Samsung SDI to build a $2.5 billion electric vehicle battery plant in Kokomo, as well as $163 million, including land, for Elanco Animal Health's new headquarters west of downtown Indianapolis. Alex Brown, Inside Indiana Business Radio.
The AES Corporation announced Tuesday that Ken Zagzebski will be its new senior vice president, as well as president and CEO of AES Indiana and chairman of the AES Indiana board. In his new role, Zagzebski will follow Christina Lund, whose departure from the company was announced in July. AES Indiana, formerly IPL, has seen 5 presidents in the last 8 years. Lund held her leadership role for nearly 3 years. Indiana home sales continue to follow the trend this year as the limited housing inventory leads to a slow buying season. July featured a sales drop of 19% year over year. Monthly sales tallied just under 7,000, according to the Indiana Association of Realtors, which said that drop was likely due to both higher mortgage rates, nearing 7%, and fewer market options. The year-to-date total is 4,400, which is 15% below last year. Indiana Adjutant General R. Dale Lyles is this week's guest on the Business and Beyond podcast with Gary Dick, presented by PNC, a weekly conversation with high-profile Hoosiers in business, sports, and entertainment, and beyond. Available now from your favorite podcast provider. I'm Kate Sharon for Inside Indiana Business, Radio on Demand.